Good morning, everybody. Bobby Cleveland, Executive Director at Oklahoma Corrections Professionals. And I got the representative, the hardest working representative we have at the Capitol, JJ Humphreys.
What do you think, Bob? I'm writing down some figures that we're
Well,
going.
JJ, we've been talking about before we came on here about how much money a meal, a cost of meal per inmate. And we come to the conclusion it's about $1.50 a meal. Would that be about right?
Well, Bob, yeah, and the way we reach that so that everybody understands, we're talking about this crazy contract that Harpe is looking at. And so our understanding about 74 million, we understand that to be a 2-year contract. So if we're right on that, so you take it, you divide it by 21,000, which is how many inmates we're just kind of rough estimate 21,000. Divide that in half, and then divide it by 3, which would be 3 meals over a 2-year period, roughly about $1.55. That's rough figures, Bob, but where can you go get anything to eat for $1.55?
I don't know. They want $3 for a drink now at the restaurant. You know,
Bob,
JJ, I was
coffee's 216, Bob. 216 for coffee, period.
216. Well, $3 for a drink, lemonade.
Hey,
JJ,
Bob.
I was thinking this morning about how long we've been doing this, and when we first did it, started out,
Yep.
and we didn't know for sure what we was going to talk about, how it was going to work. And it seemed like that every Sunday, or I mean every Friday, that there was something to talk about. We didn't have to make anything up. We have to do anything. There was something to talk about is what happened in that DLC. And I remember saying, this never seen it this bad. I can't believe this is going on. And that was nothing compared to what's going on today.
Bob, and I the same way. I'm like, man, if we're going to do this every Friday, we're not going to have, And here's what's funny, Bob. People say we talk about the same things, but Bob, yeah, we may talk about murder, but last week, so to give you an example, last week we were talking about during a 10-day period. Last week I went back over a 10-day period. I was able to find across the state, it looked like 8 deaths. Now you understand, the Harpe has done one good thing, and the one, or not good thing, but he's done one thing good. He can do one thing pretty well, and that is cover stuff up. So he has made it. I think you would agree, Bob. He has made it very difficult to find anything out. I mean, he shut down information from one prison to the other. So used
Well,
to,
not only that, he didn't tell the truth. When he,
yeah, I mean, he lies. But used to, Bob, somebody from Dick Connor would have been hearing what's going on at Crabtree. Somebody at Crabtree might not have called you, but Dick Connor would go, hey, did y'all hear what happened at Crabtree? Now, Dick Connor's not hearing what happened at Crabtree. OSP's not hearing what happened at Howard McLeod. So what he's done is he's effectively shut down information going across this, which is stupid. I mean, that's stupid on his part, and he's done it to cover everything up. But Bob, we may report on murders, but last week we reported on 8 out of 10 days. We had 10 days, and it looked like we had 8 murders. Okay, this week we're talking about murders again. We're going to talk about murders, probably. I guess that's one thing we talk about. But here's the thing: we're talking about a whole group, a whole different group of murders. And so, at the end of the day, all you're talking about the same thing. No, we're letting people know that the extent of the violence. We're letting people know.
well, the big issue is these murders are happening. They're not happening in real quick time. They're taking their time and beating these guys plumb to death.
Well, that's just like, and Bob,
You're
so
short-handed though, JJ. It all boils down to being short-handed. Is why.
well, absolutely, Bob. That's been, and we started that when we started this. That's what we were talking about. Is the short? Here's what it's going to lead to. If you remember, Bob, when we started, we were talking about, okay, when you start letting your workforce, when you start losing officers, here's what's going to happen: more drugs. Well, guess what we've seen, Bob? We've seen. If you'd have told me that we would see the amount of drugs, Bob, the other day,
Overdoses, died of overdose.
Hinton, the other day, I don't know if this is true because we can't confirm, but Bob, I got a call that they had 9 overdoses at Hinton in one day about 2 weeks ago. I got a call from another facility. They didn't have overdoses, but they treated 6 people at that one prison for, too much drugs. They were borderline overdose, okay? Right up to the border. 6 people at that one prison in one day. I was told 9 overdoses that they actually had to treat in one prison. Bob, that is, so again, yes, we talk about overdoses a lot, but when we bring you home 9 in one day at one prison, I think that's a different conversation. But we started that by saying, here's what's going to happen when we have an officer shortage. And Bob, I don't think that we ever dreamed that we would see the officer shortage. And again, they're acting like 80% retention rate. They're talking 80% retention rate, Bob. There is no way that they have an 80. That is the biggest lie. How they can even walk around and show their face when they tell that. Bob, they're closing towers. Now, who would ever dream, who would dream? I mean, you know what I'm saying? That you got no towers. I've heard they're closing them all over the place. I don't know. You hear that?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Closing towers, Bob.
Oh, yeah. It started with 1. Now it's gone to, I think, 3.
Oh, I heard they're closing them all over. I mean, the thing about it is, I don't know. Again, you can't find anything out. But the problem is when you start doing that, you have no eyes on what's going on. You just took away your eyes. If you didn't have a drug problem before, guess what? You're going to have a drug problem now. And you got a drug problem, and you got a murder problem because guess what? You have no control, and it's all related to how many people they have working. And Bobby, I'm actually working on this Ross murder case, and one of the things that I'm working on is showing that correlation between officer shortage and why this guy got killed.
Well, here's the thing, though. According to the law, the state cannot be sued. But if it's something goes along with something they did that they caused, they can be sued. And on this particular situation with DOC, they can certainly be sued because of their derelict of duty of hiring enough officers and firing the good officers they have.
Yeah, Bob, and if they violate civil rights, they can be sued. And again, so Harpe is trying to remove himself from like, and that's, guys, if you don't think this director is just, I mean, I can't even. I lack words, and Bob, I normally don't like no words. Okay?
Right.
So I lack words to even describe this man. Low don't cut it. Sorry, just don't get us there. Here's the deal: the man is going to put you out there. He's going to put you in a situation where all kinds of rights are violated. And then he's going to sit back as he does. And guys, this is not me just saying. He does it all the time. I'm removed from that. I'm that's below me. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't give you enough officers. I get it. I didn't provide you with enough help, but that's not. You can't sue me. You can sue you guys down there, and that's what he'll do, Bob. Hey, he'll put it off on the lower because he's that kind of individual. Instead of taking responsibility for the fact that he is a disaster.
I've heard that the one guy that got his head decapitated, they found his body underneath his bed, and his head was in the sink.
Yeah, and Bob, I don't know. In fact, when me and you are talking about some of that, I'm like, did we have 2 decapitations? I think we only had 1. I don't know. Hey, here's what I'm going to read you. So we are on, and Bob, so guys, we're on a group. Me and Bob's on a group. Hey, we got some really good people. Ramsey, Cecil, Luke Pettigrew's on there. And I got a couple of more on there. We're not going to mention the names because they might get in a little trouble if we mention them, Bob. So we're not going to put any names there. But it says, head decapitated and murdered. Joshua Anthony poses for his updated mugshot for DLC. Backstory. On March 9th, 2005, a behavioral health clinic at Lawton Correctional Facility stopped at Anthony's cell and asked him how he was doing. Anthony slowly turned his head like the exorcist. So, kind of spinning around. That sounds a little. His eyes locked into the clinicians with cold, unsettling stillness. A crooked smile crept across his face as he whispered, "Better now." The clinician staggered back, then froze with clutched chest, his eyes within the horror fixed as a gruesome sight. Jeffrey Churchill sprawled on the floor, lifeless, surrounded by a dark, spreading puddle of blood. Anthony exclaimed, "He's dead. I cut his head off." In the cell, a 19-inch sharp metal weapon was recovered along a 3-page letter written by Anthony. The letter said, "I had to kill this man. I want executed or set free." During the serving of blood-drawn warrant, Anthony stated, "I don't know why why y'all want mine. You've seen what I did. You know I'm evil. It took a while for him to die." Now, Bob, that's just gruesome. Why is that story not out there? You know what, Bob? You hardly heard this. That happened in March.
Yeah.
And I talked to people who were working in the department. "Oh, man, you're kidding. You're kidding. That happened? I didn't hear anything about it." How can you have a man's head cut off and people working at the same department not even hear that goes on? Now you want to talk about, and Bob, we cannot talk about this enough. We can't talk about how important it is that Harpe has shut down the information going from one prison to the other. How does he get that? You know what? Am I making sense, Bob? How does Harpe stop that kind of information? The whole dang world, I would think that'd make national news. A man getting his head cut off. That's pretty big news in my, But the news media, guess what? They're so desensitized, Bob. That's the deal. And you know who I blame? I blame this on me and you, Bob. You know why I blame it on me and you?
How's that?
Bob, we've done too good of a job. And I'm joking a little bit, but I'm not joking. In that we have done such a good job of getting the media so much information that now the media is kind of like, "Well, JJ, it's just the dude got his head cut off. It's another inmate that died. We done run that story 100 times." It's like, no, he got his head cut all the way off. This one's worse. Guess what, Bob? They desensitize, because when you have a murder every day, when you have 8 out of 10 days that we have a murder, guess what? It's no longer news. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Big deal. It's another murder, Bob, I think we had 3 this weekend and 1 this week, I believe, I get a report, and I 3 this weekend that I think is what I got. It's just every time you turn around, Bob. I mean,
What facility went on lockdown?
Bob, Allen Gamble on Wednesday. My understanding is that they brought in 4 CERT teams on Wednesday. 4 CERT teams rode in there on Wednesday. And I mean, shut down the whole. What I'm hearing is, man, they are locked down tight. That if only officers allowed on the floor, when they take meals to the inmates, only officers are allowed to take the meals. If an inmate goes anywhere, whether it be law library or or to a medical, whatever, that two officers are escorting them when they go to open the door. It's my understanding both inmates in the cell have to cuff up. Everybody's cuffing up before anything's done. So, Bob, I mean, but the question is, what took so long? Why? And Bob, you know, one of the things when that happened, we heard that Wednesday, but what was the first thing you said when you heard that?
Why did it take so long?
Well, why did it take so long, and why are they doing it? What happened that caused this?
Oh,
What do
I
you
think
think?
no question about that.
What do you think that was?
I think when we talked about it, I
Oh,
think on your elephant in the room.
Bob, I think that's what did it when we had those pictures, when we talked about that kid being beat right there and was able to show the public. Bob, that's the most I've ever gotten on that podcast. I got more views on that podcast than I've ever gotten. People cannot believe because now they're not just hearing it, now they got to see it. And when you see that, it's horrific. You just, I mean, in fact, most people would look at that and go, I don't want to see that. No, take that off. I don't want to see it because it is that traumatic. It's horrific. And so, again, I told my kid, he was looking at those pictures, Bob. He was looking, and he's a police officer. He said, Dad, that really bothers some people. It doesn't bother me as bad. And I told him, I said, son, I get that. I said, us that work in that kind of profession, you get jaded to it. You get, it doesn't bother you. But
Well, I have to be honest with you, it brought tears in my eyes by seeing
Bob,
that.
I know I was talking to you while you was looking at you was crying. I'd tell Carla, I said, oh, Bob, he's crying over looking at them pictures. But Bob, I understand, and I told my son, I said, son, I want to tell you something. If you ever get to the day that you look at them pictures right there and that don't bother you, I said, son, quit. Go find you another job. I said, when the day comes that you look at that, and you know what I'm saying? Now,
AJ, one thing to me is you look at those pictures, that didn't happen in 5 minutes.
now,
Nobody did it in 5 minutes. It took time. We don't have enough officers going around. I don't even know if we're doing counts anymore. I hear we're not doing counts.
well, Bob, I'm gonna tell you something. It's even worse than that because he was in protective custody, and you remember that dude. You remember that dude that they had the film on, and he was fighting the guy about. Oh, I don't know. It's been a while out there at Sayre. Well, me and you were going to have to go testify. And,
Oh yeah.
And the fight and how long that took, and it was videoed, and this guy, the officers fighting this guy. You remember that was a fixed post because that was the shoot, and it was a fixed post. And guess what? There were supposed to be two out there because that's what the policy calls for. A fixed post. They cannot be moved off, pulled off. Guess what? They were pulling him off. He wasn't working just that one post. He was working another whole pod plus that post. And so again, they violated the rules. Then they're trying to fire him over him getting in a fight with this guy who's high on K2. And they said, well, you overdid it. And if you'll remember, Bob, what was amazing, that film had snow in it. You couldn't hardly see it. It's really poor quality. And then it cut off right when he got to the door. And then the day of the trial, the day before the trial, they send out a video as clear as the video me and you are on, all the way into the cell, a totally different. So OIG had this video the whole time, and they wouldn't let us see the whole deal. It's like, y'all are some clowns. I mean, it's just unreal. But here's what's funny. The guy got off because it was all untrue. They were lying the whole time. They knew it, and our guy, we won. He got 90 days, I think. They said he's a little too aggressive. What do you want him to do? I mean, he's fighting the guy. He's fighting for his life. So here we are again, Bob. This kid's being beat. As you said, that beating didn't occur in a matter of seconds. This is a prolonged beating. I can promise you he's not going to go, he's going to be screaming. He's going to be hollering. And Bob, if you've been around prisons, you know when that stuff starts like that, prisoners start, hey, man needs help, man down, get some help. You know, they start hollering, screaming. It's going to be total chaos, Bob. Now, that's going on. You're on a protective custody, which would be the SHU, you know, segregated housing. Supposed to be a fixed post, supposed to be 2 guys on there on the floor. How does that happen? Can't happen. Bob, what do you want to bet they had nobody on the floor? What do you want to bet there was no one in there to hear what was going on, and that's why it was allowed to go on. and then you look at a kid that my understanding, every bone in his face was broken.
Yeah, it's just sad that they let this go on and on and on and on. It's just mismanagement. That's all it is.
Well, Bob, you know that case I'm working on, murder case.
Yeah.
With Ross, that we're saying they covered it up, and hey, Mr. Harpe, I'm working on Alan Gamble too to show you covered up quite a few. I'm working on too many murder cases, Bob. But anyways, I'm up the other night working 2:00 in the morning, and I don't have enough time, so I just had to come in at 9:00 and work till 2:00. You know, so I was sitting there looking at this, trying to come up. Because what I'm doing, I'm doing an investigation in it, and I'm saying, here's the discharge issues. Here's the investigation issues. And I'm looking at what are the issues in this investigation. And I just start picking it apart. So, Bob, here you are, this guy supposedly died, you know, in his bunk. And they're saying, well, okay, he died at 2 p.m., so 2 p.m., which is during the day. So we're on day shift. Now they say he was cold and stiff. Okay. Now, Bob, I've been a first responder. I've been with police. I've seen a lot of dead bodies. Okay. Lots of dead bodies. I've handled dead bodies. You don't get cold and stiff like that. Okay. And now, if you're out in a blizzard, you might get cold and stiff in an hour or so, or a few minutes. But normal body temperature, you know, you're going to stay. It's going to be a little bit before you begin to get, you know, rigor mortis set in. Okay. Now, he's in the day. It's at 2 p.m. when they find him. So that's going to tell you that he's been dead for quite some time to be cold and stiff. All right. They serve breakfast. They serve lunch. They have to go to the cell. They have to make sure that each inmate gets a meal, a plate. Got to make sure Bob gets his, JJ gets his. Okay. How do they go to a cell twice to feed? And this guy, and don't pick that up. Okay. Second. And they hand tray in, the other guy takes it, they don't verify. Okay, I get it. Now they're doing count. They do how many counts during the day? I think they count, you know, at least.
Was this the same? This all gets confusing. Same case where the inmate tells the officer that the guy's dead, and when she's doing the count, and she didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, she walks by and keeps counting. Comes back and sits down in the control, and then here in a little bit she goes, hey, I forgot. You remember, Bob? We got called on that. Now the way they wrote it up was she went by the cell, he called her back, and she went in and found this guy dead. I don't believe that's what happened, because we got called by not one, by, you remember, Bob? Officers were calling us, laughing about how bad things have got. This is how bad it's gotten. And an officer will walk past the guy who says Marcelli's dead and keep going, and then go back to the office and sit down and go, oh, hey, I forgot there's a dead guy back down there. You remember us laughing about, it's like we get called on that. So here's the deal. I'm looking at that during the day, 2 meals and all the counts. How do they not catch that? Bob, they go in there and they say he's on the top bunk. Okay, he didn't get beaten like that. Man, this guy's got cuts. I showed his pictures the other day. He's 36 lacerations and cut all over his body. He didn't get beat on his top bunk. How would you get beat like that on your top bunk? You didn't. So again, he either beat him on the floor and then picked him up and put him in there, or he beat him badly and he was able to crawl up there and died in the bunk. One or two, that's fine. Now, he's got blood all over him. But here's the deal. They say, well, they found him lying in a puddle of blood. You know what? That seems untrue, because if you have a puddle, when you get stabbed, you gush out blood. When you get an artery, you gush out blood. When you get beaten, blood runs down you. It doesn't puddle, it runs off of you. You know what I'm saying? Unlikely it's going to form in a puddle. Now, if you're laying on bed sheets or a blanket, guess what? It's going to be blood-soaked linens. It's not going to be a puddle, because that's going to suck it up. So I'm going, that don't sound right. Then they come in and said, we cuffed him. You ever try to cuff somebody in the top bunk? Then, Bob, why would you cuff a guy who's cold and stiff and dead? I wouldn't cuff him. What's the purpose of cuffing a dead man? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they got rid of him, got rid of the body pretty quick too on that, didn't they?
And Bob, here's another thing. They say that the medical person comes and administers life-saving techniques. Okay, you've been in McAllister prison, Bob Bean. You've been through McAllister prison together. Guess what? You come to a door, you have to wait till they open it. Even if they called, said open every door coming through, guess what? It's going to take a bit to walk through that prison. That's a big place. So how long did it take to get down here and administer life-saving techniques? The man's dead. You just said he's cold, stiff to the touch. Why are you administering? Why are you hating? A lot of things don't make any sense. Then they move the body immediately, like, just boom. Why would you move the body? Anybody that, hey, watch a little CSI or NCIS or something. Don't move the body. You put tape up. You say, nobody goes in here. We're not going to disturb. That's called a crime scene, okay? You don't disturb the crime scene. Then it says the nurse took the assailant, and they said the assailant had bruising on his knuckles. That's all he had. He had showed no other signs bruising on his knuckle. But then the nurse takes him up to strip him of his clothes and give him a shower him. Okay. Now, one, why is the nurse doing that and not the investigating officer? Two, why are you in the middle of so right here, we got a man dead. We're in an investigation, and somebody goes, hey, let's get this guy who killed him a good shower. He needs a shower. Bob, why they give him a shower? Because he's got blood all over him, I suspect. And why they strip him of his clothes? Because he's got blood all over his clothes. Why don't they write that? Any investigator would have wrote that. Any investigator would have went and collected those clothes themselves, because again, you have a chain of custody issue. Now, that's why we have investigators investigating themselves. It's a terrible, terrible problem. It's a terrible policy. But again, I'm giving you examples as I read this that just, you pick it apart all day. Where's the pictures of the cells? I've not seen any picture, because Bob, with that kid being beat like that, what do you want to bet? There's blood all over that cell. And they're saying he bled out and puddled there. Not likely. Likely blood was all over that cell. And likely he had some blood-soaked stuff there, But again, why did you move the body? Because, Bob, when you do things that wrong, you know what I think?
What do you think?
I start getting suspicion. Because if you go through training, they should have been trained on this. You do something that grotesquely wrong, I think you're trying to cover something up. I start looking at you. I start going, who moved this body? Why did y'all move this body? Why did you not report this? Why did y'all have a nurse go up there? Why did you have him take a shower before? And again, maybe they did take pictures, maybe. But if I'm doing an investigation, I say we took pictures of the assailant, blood all over him, exhibit whatever. Here's all the pictures. Don't take my word. Picture says 1,000 words. Okay. We retrieved his clothes, blood-soaked clothes, and put them in a bag, marked evidence clothes, but I signed, and again, Bob, I used to do this. I mean, I've done this 100 times. You mark it, evidence, whatever. And Bob, you carry around bags and you carry around a sticker and you mark it evidence A or
I
1.
think his shank was like was it 17 inches long?
No, now that one is the one at Lawton. That was 16 or 17. That's the guy that cut the head off. Getting them confused there, Bob. But Bob, what I'm saying is the investigations are shoddy, or guess what? They're covering it up. And it looks like they're just running by and going, oh, he's dead. Okay. And Bob, I'm betting that they're not even reporting these. That's what I'm trying to find out. Are they just doing prison write-ups? And Bob, here's what I think. I think one, they don't want the numbers out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They don't want the numbers. They don't want people going, hey, the Department of Corrections had, 50 murders filed against them last year. Okay. So they don't want that. Two, they don't want the manpower. It takes a lot of manpower to take these people to go to court, all that, testify, employees going. So here's what we do. We kill two birds, one stone. We just do a prison write-up, keep it in-house, rock and roll. We don't have to do the reports like they need to because we're not going to court. So we get away with shoddy reports because guess what? DOC don't care if you give a shoddy report anymore. Used to, they were trained not to. Used to, they cared. But now under Harpe, you can do whatever you want on that. If Harpe likes you, you can, shoot the Pope. Who cares? But that's what they're doing. And Bob, it's just insane. Since this last kid that got beat, Bob, what we really need to do is take those pictures and this pictures of Ross. We need to send that to the governor. We need to send that to the governor and say, Governor, won't you take a good look at what is happening? Because this ain't.
That's what I keep hearing people keep saying. When's the governor going to do something about this? When's the governor going to do something about this? I guess he's never going to.
No. And again, here's what's funny. Harpe not only can look at them pictures, Harpe will blame it on somebody else because Harpe's a narcissist. Guess what? The narcissist is all about himself, and Bob, everything is your fault. It's not my fault. Bob, they didn't do that. The institutions, we got such sorry employees, they can't take orders, they can't do. That's his attitude, and he will isolate. Nothing is his fault, and he will not take responsibility. You know what I'm saying? That beaten kid is all on Harpe, and it's all on the governor because the governor has put a man like Harpe in a place that he had no business being. He does not even understand the gravity of what, Bob, a lot of people wouldn't look at that director's position. Well, that's just a director. No, that director is responsible for lives. 21,000 lives, they're inmates, but also the employees. Add another 4,000 something people. That guy's got 25,000 lives that he's, and Bob, then the effect, how about the moms and the dads? Man, you're visiting with the mom right now. And again, people don't get that. Man, when you're talking to a mom who just lost her kid in a manner like that, guess what? It's not a number. You know what? To Harpe, this is just a case. This is a number. This kid means absolutely nothing to Harpe. Nothing. But if he absolutely he's proven it. He's proven he don't care about rapes. He's proven he don't care about human rights violations. He's proven he don't care about murders. All of it. He's proven he don't care about his employees. This guy cares about nobody but him. He grandstands. He puts on the beautiful general uniform. He flies all over. He goes off to these places and acts like I am the greatest director. And look at me, I'm a national great. And again, look at his numbers. Bob, look at the. Let me ask you a question, Bob. We started by talking about the kitchen issue, okay? And so we had this kitchen issue, and we discussed this last week. But again, when people say we talk about the same thing, this story is not one story. This story continues to grow, and we find out new information. So we got to bring you the new information, okay? So here's the deal. My understanding is we found out a group named Sysco. So Sysco had the contract to supply the Department of Corrections with food. Now, not do all the food service, not do all the serving and all that, just supply them with food. Now, this Trinity group is going to come in, do the whole food, the whole service, the whole kick and caboodle, kit and caboodle, whatever you call it. Anyways, they're going to get the whole contract. So what my understanding is, Harpe goes in there and blacks out, marks out Sysco like, oh, well, they're no longer, we're done with Sysco. Contracts, yeah, there's a contract, but what's this? I'll fix that contract. Now, Bob, what do you call that? If I got a contract with you, a state contract, and I go mark your name off and go, oh, no, we don't have a contract with Bob. We're doing a new contract.
It's a little bit of not telling the truth.
Well, Bob, I would call it fraud. I would call it fraud myself. I mean, you're lying about state contracts. You're falsifying state documents. There's actually a charge called false declaration of state document. So it carries 5 years. I've actually supervised several people for that, and I've actually been involved in filing charges on several people on that. So again, it is a real charge. Fraud is a real charge. Now, here again, we see him appearing, and again, now I don't know that he personally did that. Somebody in the department did it. But what do you want to bet? Do you think that they did that without his approval? Do you think that he went ahead with the $74 million contract and didn't know that they didn't have to get Sysco out of the way? Yes, he had to get Sysco out of the way.
Just like everything, he thought he could do whatever he wants to do. He
does whatever he wants.
Work the hours, these guys 24 hours a day.
And he doesn't think he does it. He gets away with it because the governor, nobody will call him on this. That is why the Department of Corrections makes an agreement with House leadership, okay, to go after me. Why would House leadership make such an agreement? I will tell you, because he has political stout with the governor. Otherwise, he'd be kicked to the curb. Nobody likes him. Go in and talk to even the leadership at the House or leadership in the Senate. You know what? They don't like you, Harpe. They laugh at you. They think you're a clown. Now, you're going to say they do the same to me. They may, I don't know, they laugh at me. I know they're scared of me, Harpe. I know they're scared of me. I can guarantee you that. But here's the thing, Bob. We got him once again. We caught him committing fraud, committing embezzlement, I think, on his salary and can't get anybody to do anything. Here we are again. Looks like fraud again. You going to get anybody to do anything? No. Now, guess what's going to happen on this contract, Bob? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think they're going to have to honor their contract now.
Guess when it runs out?
Next year.
Well, hold on. Let me look. I'm gonna look. I think maybe I'm hoping that. Oh, it's June 26th. It is next year, Bob. It's next year. So guess what? He's got to wait a whole year, but guess what he'll do?
What?
He'll He'll just resubmit the contract. He'll resubmit the contract, and in 1 year, he'll have the contract with who he wants. And he's caught, and he goes, "Oh, you caught me." And had he not been caught, he just went on and committed the fraud. But now it's, "Oh, you caught me." And so we've got to wait till the 26th to do this. But here's the question, Bob, the bigger question. And that's some pretty good questions. Why is this guy getting away with committing what appears to be criminal offenses and nobody's holding him accountable? The AG, the governor, the leadership in the House, leadership in the Senate, nobody holds him accountable. Just did this deal with Lawton where he tricked all of them. No accountability, which I say the governor was in on that one. But here's the thing, Bob. This company, 74 million. They got problems in Michigan, problems in Minnesota, problems in Florida. You pull them up, maggots in the food, all that. I've seen pictures. Man, I mean, now why, if we can Google that up, if the news can find it out that quick, and there's articles out there. If y'all want to look on my Justin Humphrey Facebook, Keaton Ross did an awesome 2 articles on that. I just posted his last article. Awesome reporting. He's on it, talks about all the problems. Why would Harpe go out and get a company that we know is a disaster?
It's crooked.
What's the game, Bob? What's the game? What, I mean, you got to stop and go, this guy was made out to be. Let me ask you a question. Why did they get Harpe as the director? He had no correctional experience. He had no training. He had no education on correction. Why did they pick him, Bob?
I don't know that one. You know that?
Well, I can tell you what they said was that, yes, he doesn't know all this, but he has a great business. He is a businessman, and he's going to bring business, and he'll have people to work this, but he's going to bring business. He's a great businessman. Okay. Well, Bob, he was at OMES. He didn't strike me as a great bit. I don't know what he was before. I do. I know some of the things, but I have not personally witnessed his management until he arrived at OMES. Bob, what would you estimate? What grade would you give him as OMES director?
Oh, he fell there.
Big fat F, Bob. He gets a big fat. And again, when we're talking about illegal, when we're talking about scandal, guess what? We had Swadley's barbecue. He got barbecue stain still on him, okay? We talked about all the COVID money missing. I was told we have ARPA money missing under him. Bob, you remember when he did away with the merit protection?
Yeah.
That was him. I mean, that was his puppy right there.
And that's screwed up.
Yeah, but Bob, here's what's funny. What people don't understand. Me and you get, and people hear us, and all the DOC employees get how that screwed them, how he personally screwed them. Oh, let's not forget how he screwed up all the checks on that day work or work day or whatever. Let's not forget that. But let's go back to this merit protection. What happened under merit protection is now we had merit protection to protect against you being wrongfully fired and them hiring their best friend. I'm just going to kick you to the curb so I can get somebody I want, my kinfolk, my good friend. It's called cronyism and nepotism. Bob, it ain't just going on in DOC. It's all over the state. All these purchase orders, how they're all screwed up. Guess what? That all started under him. When I say the level of corruption that I personally, 35, 36 years working completely with the state, being involved in government for quite some time. Guess what? I have never seen anywhere close to the level of corruption that this man, that you can pin. Guess who's mainly, it's Harpe. I mean, and it's not just in DLC, it's all over what he did when he was in OMES. But then he comes over here to DOC, and guess what? Fire this person, bring in my good friend who ain't qualified. Fire this person, bring in my good friend who's got a dad that's a high-ranking official over at the Capitol. Boom. Now, fire this one. Guess what? I'm going to bring in my former friend who was working over here at education, but now I'm going to bring her right over here. Don't know a rat's thing about corrections, none of these people, but we're going to put them in some of the key positions. And then you wonder why people are dying, why people are raped, and then you bring in massive evidence. Bob, we're not making this stuff up. We had a show Sunday. Guess what? Look at the pictures. The picture says 1,000 words. Look at them two young men that we put up on Father's Day. And again, I'm sitting there going, I'm a dad. And you know what? Any kid can mess up. One bad decision could mean that right there. Get drunk and go to a party and kill somebody. And guess what? You're sitting right there. And that's, you know, like this kid, I don't know what he did, but he did it at 15, I think. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he wasn't even 21 years old.
21 years old, Bob.
He wasn't 21 years old. He's 20 years old.
20 years. Yeah, I've been saying 21. 20 years old, going to get out in 2 years. Here's what's funny. The Ross kid, Bob, I've got it, and I'm going to show it. They kept him no less than 68 days past his discharge. And, Bob, why is that? Why do you think that stuff's happening?
Well, of experience.
Lack of experience, and the other thing, they're shorthanded. So they don't have enough people to do. It's not just officers. It's their case management. It's their records. It's people who we used to have people go around and audit these cases to make sure that no one stayed past their discharge date, because that's a civil rights violation. That's bad juju. That's bad. Guess what? You used to have people doing on it. They don't do all that anymore because they don't have. And then when they get caught, they blatantly, Bob, they went back after this case was closed. So here's another thing, Bob, that we hadn't talked about at all on here. If you go look at the minute these people die, you know what they're doing?
What are they doing?
They're changing their discharge date. They go in and say outsourced, out of you know, how do they list it? But they're out of the prison. Now, when you look at that, you think that person's discharged. It doesn't say deceased. That's what we used to put, deceased. Used to, you couldn't close that case until you got a death certificate. And Bob, you don't get a death certificate overnight. It takes a few days, weeks, sometimes months. I would have to hang on to them cases till I got that death certificate. I would put that death certificate in that file, and then I'd go on the record and show inmate deceased. Okay? That way, when you're looking at that, if you're out there trying to find this guy, guess what? Nope, he's deceased right there. They put it discharge date. He was been released. Discharge date is released. Bob, dying has nothing to do with your calculated discharge date. And if you die, your calculated time does not change. You died, and yes, you're done, but you're calculated. These guys are going and falsifying these records so that it looks like, and again, it's so that it doesn't show the amount of deaths. They don't want dead. Yeah, we're controlling the population by killing all the inmates. You know what I'm saying? They don't want that, okay? So they're going in and changing that immediately. Bob, that is wrong. They went in and did that on this Ross case. 9/12, they sent that out. He's out. And they call it a custody change. A custody change. Yeah, he did. Yeah, I'd say the custody change. He's in the graveyard, you know. Hell, I mean, wow. But Bob, after they closed it, guess what they did?
What did they do?
They come back in and changed his discharge date again. And they moved it 11 months forward. So now they show that he should have got out 11 months before that. Why would they go in after the case is closed? The case is closed. Leave it alone. It's closed. How are you bringing it back up? Reactivate it. You have to reactivate it to go in there and do something like that, Bob. How come they go in there and reactivate a closed case and then change the discharge? How do you calculate that? And then what was that calculation based on? And are you just doing that because now you know you may go to court and you better have the right date in there? And was that really the original date that he should have got out? And if so, the guy was 11 months in the penitentiary before he died. They held him. I've got it figured they was 68 days, but obviously, in my opinion, obviously they kept him and he died when he should have been out of the prison. They got problems. They got problems. They saying they don't have any problems. I say they got lots of problems. But Bob, again, this goes back to what we started with. Shortage of not just officers, they got a shortage of staff. And Bob, I was looking at some numbers the other day. Let me see if I can find them. May not can. But anyways, it was showing here we are, Bob, right here. I think Ramsey put these out. Our Mud Puddle Blue. Who is Mud Puddle Blue?
I don't know who that is.
Who is that, man? Whoever you are, keep sending me stuff. Mud Puddle Blue, I love you. Keep sending my stuff. Keep sending my stuff. So Mud Puddle Blue put this out there, and Bob, it looks like I was trying to find COs, POs, medical, and others. Okay, so get this: in February, we had 1,200 correctional officers. We had 220 POs, and we had 398, roughly 400 medical. How many other, like administrative, do you think?
500.
1,702. So we'll just round down and call it 1,700.
Really?
1,700. You got more other than you got correctional officers. What the hell is going on? What's going on? Hey, Harpe, listen to me, brother. Listen to me. Right there, we've solved the issue. We cracked the case. When you have 1,700 versus 1,200, that's what you call upside down. You're upside down. That may be a problem. So, Harpe, just so you know how to fix that, it's a little mathematical. You're supposed to be the business guru. It's a mathematical problem. So half that 1,700, get you about 800, roughly 850 is what that work out mathematically. 850, and then take the other 850 and put it on that 1,200, and you might fix that problem. Then you'll have that problem fixed. Bob, it's unreal. 1,200. Well, you could actually say closer to 13. They're closer to 13. We'll just round up and say 1,300. And Bob, in my estimation, they should have at least two. So you're at least 700 short. And Bob, how long have they been 700 short?
Well, JJ, where's that money going?
Well, Bob, that's what we did. That's how we got the $43 million raise.
Well, where's that money at now? Because he says he's broke. Can't even get uniforms for the.
He says he's broke. He's making $74 million contracts that make absolutely. Bob, what's he getting out of that deal? I keep putting that back. Why would you make those kind of deals? Somebody. I mean,
I'll tell you that.
Well, Bob, would you go and make a deal? $74 million deal with a company you knew had problems all over the place. You're sitting there looking at maggots in their food. Would you make a deal with them?
No, but I can tell you right now, if you want to ride, that's one way you're going to get it with.
Oh, I agree, Bob. I mean, I agree. But here's the deal. That's just like a prison deal. Would you go buy a prison, 27-year-old prison, $312 million, I think. I always say 314, but I believe it was 312, Bob. Would you go buy a prison and never step foot in it? That says a lot, Bob. one of the biggest prisons you got under your direction, and in 3 years you've never stepped foot. I mean, Harpe, you do stuff that just I gotta respect. And Bob, you gotta. How does a guy do such a sorry ass job and keep his job, and then walk around like Bob? Have you ever heard that little story about? You remember the king and you know that they went in there and pretended like they put all these clothes and told him that you know he was the emperor's clothes. Have you ever heard that story, Bob?
Nope.
Well, the emperor's clothes. He had this emperor who thought he was just so great and he's so awesome. And he goes out and the whole public has to cheer him and honor him and everything. So this one guy decides that he's gonna pull a little fast one on the emperor, and he tells him he's made these great clothes, but he's in his underwear. And they march him out, and everybody's going, "Oh, look at him!" Yeah, and this one kid says, you know, this one little kid goes, "He's naked. He's naked." And then the emperor figures out he's naked and he's embarrassed because he's been so full of himself that he finally realized. So guess what? Guess what, Harpe? You're naked. You're naked. Somebody needs to tell you you're a disaster and you need to wake up. You need to be aware you being a disaster is killing people. That kid, you need to get the pictures, Harpe. Don't ignore it. Go get the pictures of that 20-year-old kid beat to hell. Look at them pictures. That's you, Harpe. That's you. And again, Bob, really, you know what I'm saying? It's unreal that he doesn't. I don't know. It would bother me. I guess it bothers you. But Bob, how does all this happen? And our legislators, and you know what, Bob? They hate my guts. The legislators hate my guts because I will not let this go. I call him out. And here's the deal. I call the governor out. So guys, if you don't think that OCP is calling out or doing anything, you're sitting there going, well, what does OCP do? What do they get done? Guys, I can tell you, we're making national. Bob, I don't know if you saw this on the on my post the other day. Have you ever heard this? Well, I know you met her, Michelle Mobley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bob, this girl's been on Fox. I mean, she's a big deal. She's a big deal, you know. And she put out a letter I wrote on one of the murders that's been covered up by our criminal justice system, not DLC. This is criminal justice system.
Yeah.
Bob, she's paying attention. She watches this all the time. She tells me I'll be talking to her. I said, well, I was on podcast. Me and old Bob's on there, and we were talking. Yeah, I saw that. Y'all did a good job. Or she'll go, hey, that you did. Unbelievable that she's watching this. Bob, we are making a difference. We're letting the government know, but we're letting the people know. And Bob, I'm going to tell you something. Sooner or later, again, it's the governor. I will put all this on the governor, and we can't do anything. We can call it out, but until the governor fires him or till the Senate and House fire him. But now, Bob, I was told that the Senate actually discussed that on this last deal where they fired the health department, or not health department, mental health.
Yeah.
Harpe, your name was on that floor. They was going to put you in to fire you. So don't think that people don't know.
Well, JJ, we got to shut her down. Been an hour already. Doesn't seem like it's possible. So fast we can cover everything.
I don't want to leave because my wife is going to make me go to work. Boy, she's been working me here lately, Bob. She's trying to put the work on me.
Well, we'll get together Sunday.
It works. All right. We'll get you later, Bob.
God bless.